Well was an ugly, useless poor child, who accidentally awakened the galactic god's powers to erase the existence of humanity, but kept hiding his abilities to appear ordinary. His family were the brokies Andrew Tate warned you about, as his only meals were a piece of bread with rotten soup. And although their entertainment was counting the shit stains on their disgusting walls, he was glad that he finally had a family, because in his previous life, he never had anyone to come home to, and even though he was able to cook any meal he wanted, the loneliness kept eating away at him until he choked on his meat and died from the depression. So when all his brothers abandoned him for being the ugliest piece of shit, he spent the rest of his life reading the ancient texts until he found a mysterious ball that could measure his magical aptitude. But when he decided to try using his powers, the orb glowed with a shimmering light, and a man sensed his magical energy from the enchanted forest. However, Will began searching through the library for a guidebook, but when his disgusting father appeared, he told him to stop being useless and collect firewood from the forest. So when he arrived, he tried channeling his inner mana to release his ultimate ability. With his attempts having flopped harder than his pathetic face, the man appeared before his eyes. But when he realized Well was afraid, he threw his stick away, introducing himself as a magician. However, the magical weight within the stick pulled down a rock, but when they stared down from the cliff, they realized it fell on top of a boar. Just as it noticed them, the beast began charging up the mountain. But as Well tried running away, the man told him to picture his wind magic and to circulate the mana through his body. So just before he was crushed, Well released a burst of mana, but as the boar shrugged it off, the man told Well that he just used his first magical spell. However, when the beast charged again, he propelled a strong wind that sent it flying through the trees, before revealing that his name was Alfred Rainford, and told Well that he would turn him into the greatest magician of their continent. The next day, Well realized they were having cream for breakfast, but when he wondered if this shit was a post-meal, his mother said they had nothing else to eat. So after he returned to the forest, Well realized it was starting to feel more like home, but noticed Alfred's magical pouch. When Alfred began saying that he wanted to pass his magic on to him, he activated his mana and manipulated the wind to levitate the stick, before revealing that he was going to make Well his disciple, but warned him to keep it a secret, as his powers would spark a succession war with his brothers. So he took Well's hands, but as he noticed they were cold as ice, Alfred told him to imagine mana circulating through their bodies. As he began to picture it, their combined mana released a colorful energy around them. So Alfred told him that he was special, because even though he was ugly, he would surpass his magical abilities. Meanwhile at the house, Richard found the crystal ball. But when the disgusting loser Kurt wondered what was wrong, Richard explained that the ball was moved. As he remembered Well had been in the library, he wondered if the ugly kid was hoping to have aptitude for magic. But they began laughing at how useless he was. All the while, Well was starting to grasp fire magic, but when Alfred wondered how he was able to learn it within a few days, Well noticed his basket, revealing that it contained mountain vegetables. Alfred told him that he could take it to his family, and said it would help him avoid suspicion. That night at his home, his family was excited to eat some veggies instead of the shit they're used to choking down. But Kurt realized Well was going to be a threat. The next day, while Alfred was teaching Well to use advanced wind magic, he told him to sense the vibrations in the air around him. But when the nuisance sensed a bird, he threw down a rock. Drawing in his mana, Well released it into the air, manipulating the wind to propel the rock, until it knocked down the bird. The only way he learned how to master control of his magic was by spending hours practicing. A few minutes later, they began eating grilled meat, but as Alfred warned him to never go deep inside the forest, he said it was filled with monsters that could end his life. However, when Well remembered that Kurt had been spying on him, he began wondering how he could get him off his tail. But Alfred told him that the loser must have discovered he could use magic. With Well starting to freak out, Alfred wondered if he was willing to become the next lord. But Well told him that he couldn't stand Kurt's ugly face. However, when he revealed that he wasn't sure what to do with his worthless life, Alfred suggested he become an adventurer, and said the whole world was waiting for him. At that moment, darkness began consuming his body, but he managed to hold himself together, hoping to finish what he had started. That night, after Well told his family that he wanted to become an adventurer, he explained that he wished to enroll at the academy after he turned 12. But even though the ugly bastard was happy to hear this, Richard told him that they were too broke to afford it. However, the following day, Alfred told him that he could work as an adventurer in Brightburg. explaining that children were hired as adventurers by merchant guilds, but said he needed to master traveling magic. Wanting to show off, Alfred activated his mana and took off towards the skies, rising high until he was beyond the clouds, and told Well that this was the world awaiting him. However, that night, the darkness returned to consume him, and Alfred realized he ran out of time. So a few days later, he told Well that their training was coming to an end. But as Well wondered why it was so sudden, seeing as he only started practicing flight magic, Alfred told him to practice on his own. That night, while having dinner, Richard began saying that a whispering dead was spotted in the woods, an undead that retained its cognitive powers, but was always cold as ice, with skin pale as a corpse. At that moment, Well realized Alfred perfectly matched that description. But Richard continued by saying that the undead would eventually become a zombie that feasts on people. As these words scared the shit out of him, Well headed into the forest, but lost control as he crashed down. However, Alfred appeared before his eyes, wondering why he came, but Well began saying that a monster was inside the forest, and asked him to run to his home. With his attempt being as useless as his face, Alfred decided to confess that he was the Whispering Dead. And even though Well wouldn't accept that as the truth, Alfred told him that it happened 5 years ago. The Duke's son had contracted a deadly illness, forcing them to invade the enchanted forest for a cure. But when their army was outnumbered by monsters, even he was overwhelmed after running out of mana. However, he managed to live on because he had a strong desire to pass on his knowledge to a disciple. So he told Well that he was happy when he sensed his presence. Wanting to give him a final test, Alfred asked that he purge him, and said he would teach him holy magic. This holy magic was the only spell that could purge a whispering dead, so as he showed him the darkness that was consuming his body, he explained that he couldn't continue to preserve himself. Before he would become a zombie, he told Well to replicate his life force using mana, but as he began releasing his magical powers, the darkness overwhelmed Alfred. However, he told Well to increase his essence, but when he was afraid of erasing his master's existence, Alfred told him to remember everything he'd learned. As the memories flashed through their minds, Alfred asked him to put him out of his misery, so as Well decided on what to do. He thanked his master for everything.
次は僕が師匠の不安を。ありがとう、ベル。いい魔法だ。 また100年後くらいにあの世で会おう。
With his master's final words instructing him to do his best and do it smartly, Well thought he knew just what to do. So a few years later, he began heading to the capital, and as he waved his family goodbye, he knew he was about to start a new life and change his world forever. After he arrived at the academy, the students started introducing themselves, but Well wondered how he would cope after being in solitude all his life. Having never communicated with anyone his age, he thought all his classmates would outcast him, but as the teacher told him to introduce himself, his happy-go-lucky ass tried putting energy into every single word. And as all the students began staring at him, he realized he was clapped harder than his worthless face. But the teacher decided to explain the curriculum for the scholarship class. After Well received a party registration form, the teacher announced that they would begin training in parties from next month, but told them to decide on who will be joining up with them. Just as Well heard these words, he realized he needed to find a group, but knew no one would want his pathetic ass. Later at the cafeteria, Well realized that the other students were staying away from him, but Lena and Louise were secretly watching him. They had heard that his magic power was already on par with top-class adventurers, and a boy told them that even the magic instructor couldn't figure out anything to teach him. However, he thought they would be set for life if they could form a party with him, since they could remain together even after leaving the academy. At the same time, the other students began eyeing Well, so the boy proposed forming a group with him. He thought Well was appraising them and trying to decide if they were worthy of him, and just as the brain-dead chicks believed his words, he managed to persuade them to join his group. After they agreed, the boy introduced himself as Erwin, but Well was still trying to muster courage. As an ugly kid tried to shoot his shot at Louise and Lena, he told them that even though he looked small, his axe was big enough for both of them. However, he was convinced that his group would win Well over and recognize them as the Axe Trio, but Well wondered why everyone was having fun without him. A few days later, while the students were exchanging their game for cash at the guild, Lena, Louise, and Erwin were proud of their catch. However, when Well arrived, he extracted several beasts from his magic bag. And as the blue-haired wannabe ninja realized they were hopeless at impressing Well, he announced that he was giving up, as he thought Well was living in a whole different world. At the same time, the others decided to leave, so when Well tried suggesting they all grab something to eat, he realized the place was empty. The following day, Erwin, Louise, and Lena headed deep into the forest in search of game. But as Lena began sensing the presence of beasts, large wolves appeared from the bushes. Immediately, they readied their weapons, but Well was scouting the forest from a cliff and soon realized they were in danger. Realizing they were his useless classmates, Well thought this was his chance to make them his friends, so as he activated his flying spell, he took off towards the forest. Meanwhile, Lena and the others were fending off the wolves, but as they realized they were outnumbered, Erwin saved Louise from an attack, but injured his shoulder protecting her. Just as the wolves attacked at the same time, Well summoned large rocks to repel them, and they saw him floating mid-air. After they returned to the academy, they apologized for being a nuisance, and Erwin revealed that they were trying to get him to recognize them. As Louise concluded that they were definitely not in his league, she told him that they were giving up on forming a party with him. But Lena wished she could see his sword even once. At that moment, the teacher entered the room and told them that they were all being invited to a garden party hosted by the Duke of Bleichroder. However, after they arrived at the party, the Duke ignored all of their worthless faces and went on to introduce himself to Well, saying that his name was Amadeus. As he explained that he intended to speak with him privately, Well asked that Erwin, Louise, and Lena come along as his party members, but the trio were stunned by this. After they arrived inside, Amadeus introduced an older man as his court magician, and the man told him that his name was Brantak. As Amadeus began saying that he was Alfred's teacher, he explained that he was also a talented user of tracking magic. So Brantak revealed that he knew Alfred was a whispering dead, but said his presence disappeared 2 years ago. He was curious to know if Alfred passed on after fulfilling his wish to teach his magic to someone, and having recognized Well's immense magic power, he noticed he was carrying Alfred's magic bag. As he asked Well if he was really Alfred's disciple, Well confessed that he was, so Brantak wondered what his final moments were like. Recalling the memory, Well revealed that he purged him before he became a zombie, so Brantak thanked him for allowing Alfred to pass on peacefully. As Well revealed that the magic bag contained the supplies for the expedition into the enchanted forest, he told them that he had been wanting to return it. That evening, after the party was over, Well rushed to join Erwin and the girls, so as he explained that he was handing over the supplies, Lena told him that they didn't deserve to be in a party with him. As Erwin admitted that they intended to use him to improve their lives, Well revealed that he was also using them, and wondered if they ever looked in the mirror. He told them that he intentionally dragged them along because he didn't wish to go alone with the Duke. But as he admitted that he really wanted to be in their group, he said they were his only hope to not die a virgin again. Right then, Amadeus and Brantak showed up, and as the Duke told Well that his reward for returning the supplies was to get 20% of its value, he told him that he would be sending 1,000 gold coins to him. Realizing it was estimated at $100 million, Well screamed at the discovery, but Brantak went on to tell him that he would be inheriting Alfred's estate. A few weeks later, while Well and his friends were sailing through the sky to attend a wedding ceremony, Louise appeared in a flashy dress. As she went on to say that all the nobles would try to employ her once they spotted her, Well told her that the only thing they would get her was mouthwash.
Emotional damage!
Just as the loudmouth tried to walk, she tripped, but discovered that Erwin was in a far worse state, as the crybaby began saying that he was afraid the airship would fall. However, Brantak soon appeared, revealing that the magic airship couldn't fall out of the sky. But at that moment, thick clouds began gathering around their ship, and all of them were scared the ship would fall out of the sky.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
When Brantak revealed that he couldn't beat it, he explained that it was an undead, and said it could only be killed by purging it with holy magic. However, he couldn't use holy magic, but when the crew began growing restless, he told them that there was another mage on board, and Well soon realized he was referring to him. As he freaked out, he tried saying that he couldn't do it, but Brantag said that Alfred would have easily taken care of it. Somehow, these words gave him the confidence he needed, so as Well readied himself to head out, Brantag told him to purge the dragon immediately. Just as he flew outside, the dragon repelled him with thick mist that consumed the trees below, but Well realized that Brantag had cast a protective barrier over the ship. So as he drew in his magic, he directed his mana towards the dragon, but it nearly ended his life. As he decided to make another attempt, the dragon tried to eat him, but Well continued gathering his mana. So as he released it, his mana pushed through the thick mist, overwhelming the undead dragon. However, it managed to land a series of attacks, but as the mana consumed it, the bones began falling apart. As Brantag directed him to collect the bones into his bag, Well absorbed them, but soon spotted a huge gemstone. After it was over, all the passengers began to celebrate the victory, but a man with a fat-ass face appeared, saying that he watched from afar how Well defeated the dragon. His name was Eritirio, so as Brantag revealed that he was one of his partners from the time he was an adventurer. He explained that the buffoon was now the head of a huge merchant company in the capital. After they arrived at the capital the next day, Erwin suggested they enjoy the town before the wedding began. But when Brantag told them that he needed to attend to grown-up stuff, Eritirio realized he had intentionally left him in charge of the kids. Right then, an army of knights appeared before them. But as Erwin wondered if his bad luck had gotten them into trouble, the general acknowledged Well for slaying the undead dragon. As he revealed that the king was waiting to see him, Well soon discovered that the palace was huge. However, his friends decided to ditch him, and Louise hoped that his useless face wouldn't get them into trouble. Inside the palace, a man welcomed him as the slayer of the ancient dragon. But after he paid his respect, the king granted him the 6th rank of baronet, so Well recited a pledge he had previously memorized. A few minutes later, 2 shameless morons began screaming that Well should receive 100,000 coins for his dragon bones, while the other said he deserved 200,000 coins. However, a man named Hohenheim suggested a compromise of 150,000 coins, explaining that Well was the center of attention in the capital. He thought their pointless argument was only an embarrassment to the king. So as he managed to shut them up, Eritirio revealed that the useless old man was actually trying to bring him under the church's influence, but said the others also had their own motive. That evening, after they left the palace, as Eritirio explained that he was trying to get him to hire him as a disciple. He reminded him that he was now a noble with a bright future, and revealed that the twin dragon medal he received had not been earned in 2 centuries. So just as the loser was taken away, Eritirio told Well to expect more losers like him around, and called it the price of fame. The following day, Well met up with his brothers, but when he noticed they weren't happy, Erich told him that they had not received the wedding gifts from their family, and Paul said they were about to have the worst wedding of the century. As Helmut revealed Kurt's letter, Well realized his family were still brokies, so he offered to pay for everything since he was now the top G. A few hours later, the wedding concluded, and Well was happy that they managed to get the wedding gifts. After the ceremony was over, Eritirio showed up with a comb kuji, and as the sight of it made Well excited, he realized it was something he had always wanted. So that night, he and his friends began trying to use it in fermenting miso, and Well used his magic to complete the process. So in the morning, when he made it as breakfast for everyone, they all loved the taste of it. A few days later, after Well arrived at Hohenheim's mansion for baptism, he decided to present him with a gift to express his gratitude for allowing him to partake in it. However, when a girl entered the room, Hohenheim introduced her as his granddaughter, so she revealed that her name was Elise. This was the first time Well ever saw her, so as he told her his ridiculously long name, he soon realized she possessed magic power, so Hohenheim revealed that she could use holy healing magic. With the power known for its rarity, Well told her that she was incredible, and wondered if she healed people in the church. As Hohenheim said that she did, he revealed that she was revered as the saint. When Hohenheim went on to say that he wanted her to be married like every other regular girl, Well began wondering if he could join her long list of suitors.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
When Well tried explaining that he was only f***ing around, he realized that he really did f*** himself, but at least Elise would be the one doing all the f***. The next day, after he explained what happened to his friends, Erwin thought he was the toppest of the top Gs for getting engaged to the saint, and Louise told him that the girl was perfect for him. However, Well was disappointed that he got engaged so fast, having always wanted a harem of chicks for himself, but tried explaining that he barely knew the girl. When Lena told him that it was the same with everyone, Henrik revealed that everyone else met their wives on the day they wedded, but the discovery left Well speechless. A few hours later, after he was disguised as a creepy clown, he noticed everyone was staring at his haunted face. So when he wondered why he was given a crappy-ass disguise, Erwin explained that it was the only way to keep him unnoticed. When they began heading towards the market, Well noticed the spear loser he earlier ran into, but as he was afraid that the weirdo would recognize him, the moron actually did. He told Well that he remembered his teeth, but when he tried asking the buffoon to not reveal his identity, everyone soon noticed and began asking to be made his disciple.
You're a victim.
Back at the mansion, Henrik suggested that Well hire a disciple to turn down the other ass pains. So as Erwin offered himself up for the position, Well agreed without much thought. Later that day, he teleported to Hohenheim's mansion, but when he spotted the man inside, he managed to hide away. However, Elise found him hiding, but as she wondered why his creepy ass face was here, Well pulled her away. While they were on the roof, he told her that he wanted to talk with her and asked what she really thought about their sudden engagement. Elise told him that it was nice and said that every girl would be curious to know just how huge his Excalibur was. As she went on to say that his heroics were legendary, she told him that she was happy to be the wife of such a man, so Well was glad that his disgusting face wouldn't scare off the chick. That night, after Erwin revealed the news of being Well's disciple, the girls realized that the melon head had swooped up their opportunity, so when they tried saying that they wanted to become his assistant, Erwin told them to jump off a cliff. However, when Erich and his wife appeared, their lovey-dovey act gave Louise the perfect ideas she needed, so she told Lena that they could become Well's concubines. Just then, Well entered the house, so Louise suggested they commence their Operation Concubine Seduction. The following night, Well took Elise to a jewelry store, knowing he needed to get his chick an engagement ring. But when he asked how much they were, the clerk told him that they cost about 50 gold coins. Knowing it was estimated at 20 grand, Well wondered why they looked so attractive yet unrefined. But as Elise began saying that he didn't have to buy her something expensive, Well told her not to worry about it. Just then, he noticed a glittering ring, and as he offered to take it, he wondered how much it was. So the clerk revealed that it was 300 gold coins. Realizing it was estimated at more than $100,000, Well knew it was only a matter of time before his ass went broke, but decided to buy it anyway. While they were returning to Hohenheim's mansion, Elise wondered if he bought the ring because it had a magic stone, explaining that it was capable of storing great magic power, but Well told her that he had no idea. He explained that he only chose it because it looked good on her, so as he revealed that he had been feeling the pressure of suddenly being called a hero, he told her that he wasn't even that brave. He could only wonder how she managed to cope with being called a saint, but as he remembered that the ring could store magic, he decided to give it a try. At that moment, it began glowing with a red light, and as it released a beam that revealed the solar system, Well thought it was incredible. The following week, while Erwin and the girls were having lunch, Elise showed up at the house, wondering if they could tell her what kind of man Well was. Meanwhile, Well was at the palace, and as the king asked if he could help them slay a dragon, he accepted without a thought. So as a knight began explaining the mission, he revealed that their destination was the territory of an ancient dragon. Hearing that, Brantag realized that their duty was to eliminate the dragon, so the knight revealed that only a magician could withstand a dragon's breath. When Well wondered how only two of them would take on a dragon, Brock burst into the palace, and Brantag realized he was the third magician. As Brock spotted Well, he recognized him as the hero who slew the bone dragon, but his huge hand nearly tore down Well's shoulder. As he bowed before the king, he told him that they would set off immediately, but as he began oozing with a flaming aura, Well wondered if he was truly a magician or a misplaced wrestler. Brantag affirmed that he was the palace magician, and revealed that his name was Armstrong, but everyone called him Brock. As they flew towards the dragon territory, Well noticed that the muscle brain was fast, but Brock revealed that they were heading to the military garrison on the border. At the same time, Henrik was telling Wells' friends that he had left to slay a dragon. But when Lena wondered if he went solo, Henrik told her that he formed a temporary army. Right then, they started hearing a loser's voice from outside the gates, and as they discovered it was the same spear buffoon. Louise wondered if they would be a part of Wells' army. Henrik said that they would, and revealed that Erwin would be temporarily in charge of them until Well returned. Hearing those words, Erwin began freaking out and said he couldn't take command, but Lena told him to suck it up, while Louise told him that no one expected anything from his sorry ass anyway.
Damn!
However, by the following day, Erwin managed to lead them into battle. But while the sun was still coming up, Brantag, Well and Brock arrived at the dragon's den, so as Brock screamed for the battle to begin, the dragon emerged outside. Its roar made Well scream in fear, but Brock began casting magic armor spells, boosting his strength with full armor. Just as he launched towards the dragon, he managed to knock it on the head, so as Well realized his spell converted magic power into physical objects. Brantag explained that its defensive strength was greater than a magic barrier. So as Brock flung the dragon into the ground, Well began gathering his mana, but Brantag told him that Brock would soon run out of magic power. However, he managed to fling the dragon again, and as he told Well to end it, he released his mana and overwhelmed the beast. After it was killed, Brantag told Well to collect its body, so as he absorbed it into his magic bag. Brantag told him that he could make a fortune selling the dragon's parts. However, when Well began thinking it was over, Brock told him that the battle was only just beginning. But when Well wondered if their next enemies were weaker, Brantag told him that they had the numbers advantage. Outside the battle zone, Elise and other nurses were treating injured soldiers, but as they were running out of magic, Elise decided to help out. However, more wounded soldiers continued to appear, and as they revealed that the front line was chaotic, they admitted that they were only holding out because of the mages. By the next day, the tents were filled up with more wounded soldiers, but as Elise was beginning to run out of magic, she decided to use the magic stored inside her ring. By the time it was dark, she was completely exhausted. But when a nameless loser found her, he told her that she was lucky to get engaged to Well. When Elise wondered if he was safe, he told her that he was, and revealed that Well was fighting on the front line, calling him a true hero. As more days passed, Elise was totally drained, and even her ring soon ran out of magic, but she asked for medical tools to continue treating the soldier. Just then, a knight announced that the troops were returning from the front line, and revealed that they won. But as another appeared, saying that Well was injured and needed treatment, Elise began rushing to find him. However, she discovered that he was perfectly fine, and as she was relieved to see him, her exhaustion made her pass out. When she woke up a few hours later, Well told her that he heard stories about her on the front line, and as he said that all the soldiers admired her as the saint, he told her that he couldn't wait to be baptized in her juice.
What do you mean by that?
After they returned to the mansion, they began trying to redecorate the place, but when Elise arrived, Louise wondered why the bitch was determined to take their man away, and thought it was the end of their Operation Concubine Seduction. However, when Elise decided to ask Well if he was engaged to both of them, Well wondered if she wanted him to have concubines. When she told him that it was perfectly normal, Louise and Lena realized their opportunity, and announced their intention to marry him, so as Well agreed, he knew deep down that he was f***ed. A few weeks later, Helmut also married into a knightdom, but Paul told Well that they were only getting a wife because every girl wished to become his relative. Without his influence, he thought none of them would ever get a girl, and told him that he needed to be ready for the tournament. When Well wondered what that was, Henrik explained that it was a martial arts tournament the kingdom hosted once every 3 years, and told him that all nobles were supposed to participate. However, there were no mage divisions, so Paul told Well that he would be in the swordsmanship division, as he revealed that the use of magic was forbidden. At the mansion, Brantag was telling Erwin and the girls about the tournament, and he thought they would be respected by everyone if they managed to make it through the preliminaries. So as Louise and Lena thought they had a chance, they left to commence training. But when Erwin continued dawdling, Brantag wondered why his lazy ass wasn't up yet, so Erwin told him that he had nothing to lose. However, Brantag thought his fat ass had everything to lose, and told him that he could be kicked out of his adventuring party for being useless baggage. But the thought scared the shit out of him. That night, when Well announced that he would be entering the tournament, he told them that the last winner of the past 2 tournaments wouldn't be participating. But as Louise began saying that they would certainly win, Well told her that no one with the size of her tits would ever win anything.
Yo,
That one there was a violation, personally I wouldn't have it.
As he went on to reveal that he had something important to discuss with them, he wondered if they would allow Elise to join their party. But Erwin was glad that he wasn't getting kicked out. At the same time, Louise and Lena were excited to add a healer to their group. And even though Lena wished the bitch wasn't after their man, she told them that she'd be very useful. With Erwin in support, Well began revealing that he would focus on the martial arts tournament, and as he admitted that he wanted to save himself from getting embarrassed, Erwin declared that he would win it. So early the following day, he started running a marathon, but with the girls already exhausted, Well barely kept up the pace. When they moved on to pull-ups, Erwin outmatched them, and after they advanced to the weapon training, Well began swinging his sword like a sickly ugly girl, but Erwin wouldn't stop. Even at nighttime, after Well's lazy ass already retired to his bed, the others continued to train. But as Erwin persisted till sunrise, he noticed that his hand was injured. However, that day during lunch, after Well told them that the winner of the last 2 tournaments would be participating, the news left them all speechless. So that night, Erwin tried asking Well if he would remove him from the party for failing to win the tournament, as the thought was increasingly making him anxious. However, when he realized that Well was actually asleep, he decided to shake the weakling awake. Hoping to save his blushes, Well began saying that he was waiting for Elise, and revealed that she was anxious about joining their party as she thought she was too useless. Just as Erwin heard these words, it managed to stir up his determination once again, as he realized he wasn't the only one afraid, and said he would win the tournament.